Hi and welcome to another gaming video, and in today's video I'm going to give you my first impressions of the PlayStation 5, well actually the PlayStation 5 Slim, and if you really want to get sort of pedantic about it, this is the PlayStation 5 Slim with the built-in disk drive. So this is actually my daughter's PlayStation 5. She bought it to replace her PS4. She had an original PS4, really not enough storage space, and there was some newer games that she was looking at buying. So she went out and bought this. This is a PS5 Slim optical, whatever we'll call it, non-digital edition. And I've never been a big fan of the look of the PlayStation 5, the original, but I think the Slim model just seems to, well, it's obviously smaller by quite a bit, to be fair, and it just looks a lot nicer. One thing, sort of a complaint I have about this particular model is that obviously with the disk drive on the side, it's quite bulky, it sticks out, it doesn't match the other side. If you had the digital edition of the PS5 Slim, then you would have more of an even sort of feel to the console. But I get where she's coming from. I wouldn't want a digital-only console either. She's got plenty of PS4 discs and some PS5 discs that she would want to load on this device. So she needed the Slim with a disk drive, and it is a pretty decent-looking machine. It's actually smaller than I expected it to be. I've not seen a Slim in the flesh before. Pretty straightforward to set up, as with most PlayStations. You just turn it on, fill in your details, put in your PSN account if you've got one. It'll pull everything across, and that's fantastic. If you are moving from a PlayStation 4 to a PlayStation 5, then you can pull across also, especially if you still have the PS4, you can do a transfer and bring it all across. It did it with no issues. It took a long time. It took about 9 hours to pull games, accounts, save data across, but it's all on here, and it's all been working fantastically. So that's my sort of first initial thoughts on the look. I mean, it's a nice design. I said my only issue I have is this sort of lump on the side, which is there for the disk drive. We take a quick look at the controller. This is the PS5 DualSense. It's pretty much a PS4 controller with just a bit of a smoother feel to it. I do like the way that they've sort of tapered the controller legs. Do we call these legs? And it just feels a lot nicer. But other than that, it's a PS4 controller with a slightly different shape. The only one thing that my daughter didn't like about it is that some of the buttons have sort of, I don't know what you call it, like reactive feedback. So if you're, that they can sort of be harder to press or harder to pull if you're in certain situations. I'm sure that's a great feature, but she has turned that off for now. So looking back at the console, well, I'm very impressed with it. The one reason that she didn't want to upgrade from a PS4 to a 5 is that she wasn't aware that the PS5 was PS4 backward compatible. Once she knew that, she was like, oh yeah, okay. So she's popped her PS4 discs in, and they've all installed absolutely fine. She had some purchases on the store, the PlayStation 4 store, which she managed to just download and pull across. One interesting thing that we came up with is that if you can install the PS4 version of a game and the PS5 version of the game on the same system. So I think she had NBA 2K3. She had it on a PS4. It had save data. She installed the PS5 version along with bringing in her save data across, and it wouldn't see the save data, and we couldn't work out why until we went into the store and found there was the PS4 version which you could install on the PS5, and that would see the save data. So that's a great thing. You can have a PlayStation 4 and a PlayStation 5 version of games, and if you've got save data for the PlayStation 4 version, you can use that on a PS5 as long as you are using the PlayStation 4 version of that game. That's a little bit complicated, but the bonus of her having both games on the PlayStation 5 is that she could see just how different the PS5 is, because a lot of people have just said it's a glorified PS4, but spec wise it's vastly different. So she was playing NBA 2K3, the PS4 version. Obviously she played it on her PS4 and she played it on the PS5 as well. Looks pretty much the same, plays pretty much the same. I'm sure, I don't know, you might get some increased better loading speeds, etc., but essentially the game and the graphics are going to look the same unless there's some kind of update. But then she played the PS5 version of NBA 2K3, and she said there was a vast difference in loading times, the graphics, the way people look. She said they looked more real, and that is a general feel across a sort of a comparison of the two. I was recently reading about Black Ops, which is on the PS4 as well as the PS5 and various other consoles, and the look of it on the PS4 is vastly different to the 5. Obviously the PS4 is an aging console, but they cut a lot of textures, they cut most of like the grass, etc., on the PS4. So there is a big difference between graphics on the PS4 and the PS5, and you may even notice some difference if you're playing a PS4 game on the PS5. So what are my initial thoughts of it? It's a PlayStation. It's a next progression PlayStation, so it's faster, it's better, and it will play PS4 games slightly better than you would on a PS4. Obviously it will play PS5 games, which look absolutely stunning, and really there isn't much more to say about it. I'm not a home console fan, but my daughter is, and she's gone from a 3 to a 4, and now she's gone from a 4 to a 5. She didn't want the full-size one, and she didn't want the slim without the disc drive, so managed to pick up this model, very reasonable price, and it is fantastic. So I haven't really shown you the back of the console, because there isn't that much on it. So on the back you've got I assume that is some kind of Kensington lock up there. You've got your HDMI socket, a LAN port for wired Ethernet, 2 USB ports, and your power port on the front. You have not much at all, but you've got your 2 USB-C ports for charging your console, for charging your controllers, so they don't use full-size ports on there, although I suppose you could use the full-size port on the back, and then you've got your power button, and that is it. And obviously you've got your lights, which I'm not sure if you can see, but they glow white and red and blue, I'm assuming. But that is a quick look over the console itself. My first impressions are it's a fantastic console, and if you're a PlayStation fan and you're a PS4 user who either has a PlayStation 4 that's on its last legs, or you just sort of fancy upgrading to the next one, then the 5 is great, and I much prefer the look and the feel of the Slim. I would, as I've said before, prefer it without this huge sort of bump on the side for the disc drive, but there is no way around that. Unless you buy a Slim and an external drive, you might be able to get around it that way. So that is a quick look around the PlayStation 5 Slim. I'm not going to show you any sort of game footage because, well, it's a PlayStation. If you know what a PlayStation 4 looks like, then just expect better graphics and faster loading times from the 5. The 5 does have a built-in SSD versus the old style hard drive that the PS4 had, so it's natural that loading times and sort of game loading speeds are going to be a lot quicker. So if you're in the market for a PlayStation 5, I highly recommend the Slim. If you aren't bothered about the disk drive, then you can pick up one of these without the bulk on the side, considerably cheaper. I mean, I think that added about £80 to the full price. But if you're interested in having one, then you can buy a Slim with a disk drive, and that is pretty much it. PS5 Slim, my first impressions. Link, like, subscribe, enjoy.